The living room, where the family meets to discuss issues, any issue which may be bothering one of the family members. That's what we do each and every Tuesday on WAC 90.1 FM with Ricardo Mitchell and DJ Aaron 868. We have casual conversations on serious topics, from sports to culture, mental health to economics, relationships to life lessons. Join us each and every Tuesday on WAC 90.1 FM. The living room, casual conversations on serious topics.
You ever hear that song before, Ricardo?
I can't say that I have, here.
Neither have I.
Just make up a David Rudder on the spot.
I didn't make up a David Rudder. Remember, WAC boasts the biggest catalog of local music in Trinidad and Tobago and around the world. And when I say local, I'm talking about things that hail from our shores, right? So this was just one. I just searched jazz and this pop up.
So you search jazz?
David Rudder pop up, yeah. It's called Seance on the 6th and 7th fret.
Seance on the 6th and 7th fret.
Yeah, I'll see if we find that on YouTube after. Yeah. Right? Let's kick this off as we always do. All right? First and foremost, must give thanks and praises to the Almighty for granting us the gift of life and seeing another day. No matter what time of day it is, you must always
give thanks.
And secondly, we must say thank you to those that went before us. And we are not just talking about our ancestors, the original inhabitants of Trinidad and Tobago, because we all know, accept, reiterate, and say it would be chess that Columbus lied, but also to our brother in music, Tony P, where the P this week stands for
Passport, Aaron. Passport.
You finally get yours.
Well, yeah, I did get my passport, and since you brought that up, I definitely want to extend kudos to our immigration services. Man, it was amazing. It was a seamless process.
Serious?
Seamless.
You would swear with the amount of complaints that you see, it's a process that you have to fight tooth and nail for.
No. You could have fought completely toothlessly.
I love that.
No teeth were required.
No teeth. I'm gonna make a real bad joke there, but I'm gonna stay out of that. Yeah,
best behavior this evening.
Yeah, for you. Right now, folks, if you don't know the program you're listening to, this is the Living Room with yours truly, DJ Aaron 868. I remind you each and every time that culture is my code, and I sit here alongside my bro with no fro, a lot of flow, always on the go and in the know.
That is quite an intro. Ricardo Mitchell, the social sage on the global stage.
And it's November the 5th. So for those of you, our listeners in the US, it's election day. So we trying to stay away from that, and we'll talk about that next week. But for those of you around the world, we celebrate Men's Health Month. And for this Men's Health Month, we are taking a different slant. Yeah. We are talking about social awareness for men.
Social health,
right?
Yeah.
So that's how we focus in this month. And for this first episode inside this month, we have a very special guest who has traveled sea to sea and star to star.
Oh, wow.
To get here and sit with us inside the living room today.
Star to star, is it?
Star to star. I think it have an airways called Star Airways somewhere in the world, I'm sure.
Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room. Welcome to the living room.
We have Soraya Deen. She's a lawyer, an interfaith consultant, an expert on nonviolent communication, dialogue, conflict resolution, and peacemaking. She's a fellow and faculty of the Omnia Institute for Contextual Leadership, working directly with communities and women impacted by violent extremism. Now, listen, I could do this entire bio. It is one of the most impressive bios I've ever read in my life. So, how much time we have this evening?
We have until 6:59.
She is a member of the world-famous motivational speaker Les Brown's group of platinum speakers, sharing the stage with renowned speakers and activists. Soraya is also the founder of the Muslim Women Speakers Movement and co-founder of Peace Monks, promoting Christian-Muslim dialogue. She is a social and spiritual activist, corporate trainer, and a certified non-violent parent educator. Soraya is also a fellow of the Shalom Hartman Institute and an advocate and fellow of the Sikh Coalition. Oh, I'll touch a button there. Right. She brings together Muslim women and women of all faiths to have provocative conversations on current issues, ranging from terrorism, Zionism, Israel-Palestine, communication, parenting, and conflict resolution. Soraya sees herself as playing a dual role. She confronts Islamophobia, and she also demands the end to patriarchy and misogyny in our community. Soraya insists that we can't deny that an extreme ideology is living and thriving in some Muslim communities. Muslim women everywhere are read a Bill of Rights that must conform to an epistemology of the 7th century. We must take serious cognizance of the quotidian struggles of Muslim women to be heard, to be relevant, to be taken as a solution. We must confront the tough issues that are crippling our community. We must recognize that all theology is contextual. This evening, joining us in the living room, we have a career advocate, a world traveler, one of the most complex speakers I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with and meeting in person for the first time. We're going to find out all about this stuff very shortly. But Soraya, welcome to the living room.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here.
Very, very glad to have you. I am nervous.
And I'm going to say, sorry, for the first time in the probably 5 years Ricardo has been doing this show with me, this is the second time Ricardo is nervous. And that means you are very special and dear to him.
She's one of my heroes.
She's one of your heroes.
Yeah.
She in the top 3 now.
And I'm not saying that loosely.
All right. So we're going to kick off today with, because we have limited time with you, right? We're going to kick off today's interview with probably the hardest question you're going to get.
Thank you.
We're not going to ask you, well, in Trini terms here, where's the scene? Or where's the gist therapist? Or what's the word hummingbird? We are asking, how are you?
Oh, thank you for that question. I'm doing fabulous. I'm extremely grateful to be in Trinidad with wonderful friends who are like family. And it's been a rollicking, rolling, exciting 3 days for me. And I'm just like getting so nervous and sad about having to leave Trinidad tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Now, before we get down into the meat of today's discussion, I want to ask you, have you sampled our local foods as yet?
Yes. You know, I was, my good friend, I say brother from another mother, he picked me up from the airport at 3 a.m. And we go in search of this little restaurant which was serving doubles. So it was delicious. I had it in my palm and I just ate it so ravenously.
I don't know if the listeners can detect it, but do you have a hint of an accent? You might tell us where you're from?
Yes, so I was born in Sri Lanka. It's a little island below India.
A little island.
Yes. You must know where Sri Lanka is.
Yes, I have an idea.
Yes. We have about 23 million people, I think, twice that Trinidad is today.
Sounds like 20 times.
And I'm going to say 20 times, yeah.
You're 1.3 million. Oh, yes. Okay, 20 times. That's what I meant. So I'm from Sri Lanka, and as you might know, Sri Lanka was colonized by the British, the Dutch, the Portuguese, and they left something good. Gandhi always said, there was some good that the colonized people left, and we need to focus on that. And I think Sri Lanka also embraced that philosophy of looking for the best in everything. So we learned to speak English early on. And I was one of the last people to study in the English medium. So maybe that's why you detect the accent.
It's just a hint. But I am excited for multiple reasons. One being, there was a point in time, do you watch cricket?
I do.
Right. So West Indies cricket has a very special place in our hearts and our medical fraternities because they give us so much anxiety
And heartaches.
And I was trying to choose between supporting West Indies and choosing a different team to support. And I landed on Sri Lanka because last at Malinga, I had orange hair for a year and a half.
What?
Yeah, remember when I had the orange and I let it grow out like Malinga?
No,
You don't remember that?
no. That was before friendship. Yeah, thankfully.
And Sangakkara and Jayawad and all that. What is that? No, Sri Lankan cricket. So,
We loved Brian Lara.
oh, well.
So
Yeah.
we exchange mutuality in loving our cricketers.
And well, in a couple of years that you've been here, have you seen anything in Trinidad that reminds you of Sri Lanka?
Yes, in fact, the people. I think there's a large number of people of Indian origin. So I just feel so connected to them geographically and I think somewhat spiritually too, because we're from the same region. And maybe we walked the earth together and sometime, I don't know.
Because, I mean, honestly, when we first met, I was a little taken aback because I was expecting, and I apologize in advance for any offense, but I expected you to have a more complicated name.
Oh.
Right. And I'm saying that because of the Jayawad and others, the Sangakkars, you know, there's a rhythm and and you know, Soraya Deen, you could have been born in San Fernando and went to school in Chabonas. Like, we know Soraya's in Trinidad, and there are many Deans in Trinidad as well.
Oh.
Right, so your name, I was like, oh, okay.
Easy.
She could be Trini. You could be Trini.
Trini, yes. That may be also because I'm a Muslim from Sri Lanka. So the names are different. Most of them are of Arabic origin. So Soraya is a Persian name, Queen Soraya. In fact, my mother named me after her. The Shah of Iran had a wife, Queen Soraya. Yes. So she was in love with her. And then, so Muslim names are quite different from the tongue-twisting Sinhalese names that most of our cricketers are holding.
See, and this is one of the reasons why we have our passport in the living room this evening. I want us to, as Trinis, to recognize how connected we are to so many different cultures and to so many different people and stories. And so, you could not have told me at the beginning of the year that I would be sitting in the living room with a Muslim woman who's also a human rights activist and an equal rights activist from Sri Lanka. So, like, you're my first Sri Lankan friend.
Right.
So it's very exciting for me. I know you have more Trini friends than I have Sri Lanka friends.
Yes. You know, that particular opportunity for me to come here, it was by chance. That I was speaking with a group and there happened to be a lady who thought I should invite Soraya to Trinidad. So my mentor always says, you know, when given the opportunity to speak what is meaningful, if not stay silent. So maybe I said something that resonated with her. And it's a reminder for all of us, you know, to be very mindful in what we say and how we come across.
I'm not known for being mindful. I'm more mouthful than mindful. Look at the way that Aaron is judging me right now.
That's work in progress, you know.
What?
I have to mention her name. I don't know whether she'll mind. She's very, she doesn't want to share this, but she's Liza and wonderful. I just felt, I lost my sister when she was very young. And there are moments in your life, you walk through life and you meet people who carry a very strong link to you, like an energy that passes between you. So Lisa, I feel that there is a connection that is so deep.
She is an amazing person.
Yes.
Amazing person. I met some. There is so much of life to grow into.
Yeah.
And I am very grateful for opportunities like this. And we could sit and just chat all evening. But I do want to ask some driven questions.
Okay.
Some of the topics will be sensitive. Hopefully none of it is invasive, but we mentioned Sri Lanka. We mentioned, you've been invited to Trinidad. But you were born in Sri Lanka, grew up in Sri Lanka, but you don't live there now.
I don't live there, but I work there. I go very often.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can share with us about the work that you do?
Oh yes, absolutely. Sri Lanka has a 52% of Sri Lankan's population are women, but we have only 5 women in the parliament. Yeah, so it's under 2%. So one of my areas of work is to really empower women to participate in the political process. Because if we truly want change, women have to run for office. And it is a male-dominated area, so no man would come and ask, would you like to take my place? Would you like to run for office? I think women have to support one another and see that we are electable.
And that is one of the reasons that I'm excited about having you here. Our theme this year is going to be social health. For Men's Health Month, it is social health. And we've been made aware of things like mansplaining and that type of thing. I don't think Aaron and I, two young men, well, youngish, and whatever he is, we should not be deciding how we can best help women. We shouldn't dictate how we become allies or how we become advocates. And we were hoping for some advice, from somebody you have a voice in a space that it is very difficult to have a voice, much less raise it. And so I'm thinking maybe you could help us learn how to become better allies and advocates.
I think this journey has to begin in our homes. Validation of someone is very important. Especially for a woman. What happens often is that what we hear around us is that her roles are defined. So if she has to do something different, she has to break the mold. And when she decides to do that, she needs allies. And the first ally should be her husband, her brother, her family. And that does not happen very often in most homes. Due to several reasons, due to structures, and oftentimes a woman is called to raise the family, and she prioritizes that, and that's beautiful. There's a gift in that she brings to the world, to nurture and nourish. So in terms of the advice that I could give, it's not even advice, I could be wrong, because I talk through the lens and the prism of what I am doing and who I am. So as a community organizer, my work centers around not in boardrooms or in fancy hotels. I go to the margins. I live with the people and I find out what is affecting them, what is impacting them. And what we hear mostly is that they don't have the resources and they don't have the support. And that support does not necessarily mean financial. It's a kind word. You're good, you can do this. That level of encouragement is very lacking in our world today for women. So I would say let's begin there with a kind word to each other. Because we take for granted men are tough and they don't need kindness. But for us to be able to be kind and gentle towards the men is equally important. Don't you think so?
I did not expect that. And I'm not unaware of it, but I'm still getting used to hearing that. The consideration that we need to be verbally empowered.
Yeah.
We need to be encouraged and supported and
reassured.
Oh, well, yeah, that is the word.
Reassured?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what I love the
Validation,
most,
yeah.
the validation, yeah. What I love the most about what you said just now is that it needs to begin at home, right? And one of the things that I think as men sometimes we forget is that and I'm gonna bring this back to the traditional gender role here, where men are supposed to be the protector and the provider of the home, and that just does not mean going out and make the money or being a physical protector. It also means being an emotional, a spiritual protector to your partner. And I think that is the part that a lot of us tend to forget. We forget that we have to nurture as well. We forget that. But again, because of how a lot of us were raised as men, we were raised to forget that nurturing aspect and just focus on protecting and providing. So to hear you start with that, it just reaffirms to me why we are taking this position for this month, for social health. Because we could tell a man to protect and provide all the time enough, but we also need to teach them as Tony was saying before he left here today, that nurturing aspect as well. To not just nurture yourself, but to also nurture your wife and your family.
Yeah. You know, that's something so profound that I learned growing up. I'm a South Asian Muslim. We learned a different brand of Islam. We were minority communities living in majority Buddhist and Hindu communities. So something that my father would always say is that it's like a garment you wear. Now imagine, Ricardo, you have to go somewhere. You're picking what you want to wear. Let's say a shirt, right? You want to see that it looks well on you. You want to see the color matches. It's like we are garments to each other. A man to a woman, a husband to a wife. You know. So to tenderly pick that dress that you're choosing to wear today, and to see that it complements you, and see the colors are beautiful. And it's that level of adoration. That's a very simple lesson, isn't it? So oftentimes what we have is we have problems we have created and solutions we have not explored. So that particular lesson is in the Quran. It's in the Quran. We don't hear about that much, you know. So men, treat your women like garments that you wear. And that was explained as the beauty of so close to your heart, so close to your body, so beautiful, so adorning you, you know. So I thought that was profound, a simple lesson, but there's so many simple solutions, isn't it? We just try to make things complicated sometimes. But the key is to be mindful, you know. You wake up in the morning, you have to be mindful. That's what is lacking in us. Huh? We are in such a busy rat race. We forget to be mindful and to be present. The other day I took my dog for a walk and I videotaped him because he looked cute. I just bought him a Christmas outfit. And when I was listening to that tape, because I wanted to send it to my brothers and my husband, he was at work, I heard the birds chirping. I hadn't even heard it when I took him for the walk. You know? And I had to write a little note, and so many of my friends said, wow, what a beautiful message. So that level of, you know, being present is a beautiful thing that we need to reclaim. If we can, we should. There's no ifs and buts, you know. What is going to nourish us gives us mental health.
I didn't want to call this an interview because this is... I know in your bio there was a part where you do corporate training and stuff like that. I feel like I sit in a workshop here.
Oh.
Because
I feel like I'm sitting down in a lounge listening to poetry.
Oh.
Because now I'm thinking, what have I adorned my partner in? What have I dressed her in? You know?
Interesting question. Just had to chill up. Just had to sit up and say that.
I know.
But the analogy about the clothes, it is so simple yet so profound. I would honestly, Ricardo knows how much I try my best with analogies and anecdotes and stuff like that. And I am terrible at it 95% of the time.
96.
Wow. You could have given that 1%. But that one, I'm stealing that.
Oh.
And I am going to start telling my partners and friends things like that.
It's a very simple measure of how am I treating someone else. What have I dressed you in? What have I dressed you in? Are you going to work feeling better about the day because of what I've left with you? Are you coming home to feel better because what I'm going to greet you with? It is... When I said pick up the show, go home, call it side evening. How do we go beyond that? We're going to try.
Yes. Yesterday, my friend Nick took me to meet the Brahma Kumaris, and we had a long conversation. The sister there was explaining that we are all soul, people of soul, you know, that's the soul that is connecting, that's yearning. And we are carrying, it's like getting into a car, you know, the car takes us, but it's the driver who determines. So she was equating the driver to the soul. And it's something that is in us, within us, that drives us to be mindful, And no matter what happens, I remember when my kids were very small, I used to tell them this story where Dr. Martin Luther King, right? He was one of our freedom fighters, one of the iconic civil rights movement activists. When he was at a meeting in New York, there was a man who came up to him and asked, "Are you king?" And Dr. King looked at him and said, "Yes." And the man took a mouthful of spit and spat at him. And what did Dr. King do? He had many choices, He could have called the police, he could have pushed him, he could have abused him. What Dr. King did was so profound. Children love this story when I tell this to my kids. So what he did was, he reached into his pocket. He took out the handkerchief. He wiped the spit and he said, "Here, this belongs to you." That's a profound visual, isn't it? What if we can repel everything like that? This is not me. This is yours. It's your stuff you're trying to give me. I don't have that hatred in me. So here, take it. I thought that was profound for us, because today we see so much of social activists walking and parading and protesting. But at Dr. King's heart, he said, "I stick with love. Hate is too much of a burden to bear." So that's a very serious and a deep call. And I think as a citizenry, as people, as global citizens, we have to embody that. We have to share that, and we have to move forward.
Now, you speak of activism, right? How did you choose to become a career advocate and activist? When I was 13 years, I went to my local mosque, and I was so excited because they had like a little, we call it kandiri. I don't know what you call it here. It's like we have events commemorating the birth of the Prophet. And I went there because we pray for 12 days, and they were so rude to me. They said, "You can't come here. This is not a place for you." And I was confused. I had gone to pray. I had gone to celebrate my faith. And since then, that was like the beginning. And I went up to my mom thereafter and I asked her, "Why did that happen?" And she said, "Yeah, mosques are not for women." And that was the explanation that was given to me. Then later on, as I grew up, I practiced law, then I raised kids, and 9/11 happened, So when 9/11 happened, 7 years after 9/11, September 11th, 2007, my son, had gone to pick my 7-year-old son from school, and that day he comes to me crying because he was bullied. He was called a terrorist. Muslims had a difficult time in America after 9/11. So thereafter, I began representing my community in a deep way, going out, speaking, and getting to know people. And then when I, of course, came back to my community, I was not as celebrated. My voice was not heard. There was a role that I had to play. I was a Muslim woman, so I had to use the side entrance. I couldn't go to this mosque. I couldn't speak up. So there was a lot of issues. And today, Ricardo, you know that I work at the intersection of religion and gender a lot, and how that gives rise to extremism, because we don't have female voices in that field. So that is one that led me into taking a strong stand, not for anything else, but to really tell my sisters that they have a voice. They raise children. What more do they need? Qualifications? You don't need PhDs, So my whole thing is, speak up. When you see something wrong, speak up. When you see something that needs to be corrected, correct it. Because it's up to us, isn't it? Because we are all blessed with so much of gifts, talents, and abilities. I believe at the end of the day, when you're in your deathbed, God is going to ask you, "I gave you this, and this. What did you do?" And be prepared to answer,
That is, what did you do? Maybe half of the conversations I have, I use that line. What did you do?
Oh, okay.
So if Aaron is telling me something happened at work, I'd ask him, "So what did you do?" You being presented with the opposition, did you treat it as an opportunity? What did you do with it? Did you address something? Did you raise your voice? Did you even just take note of its frequency so that you could strategize and how you address it? But when you ask people, what did you do? I think just putting the responsibility on them to navigate the space that they are in, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So imagine if Carol can't ask you, what did you do? How are you going to face this creator who has blessed you with all these things and all of these scenarios and all of these relationships? If you can't handle me asking you, so what did you do?
Oh, they get offended.
Oh, people, I don't think people are
Pushback.
used to direct pushback. You know, they need to be coerced into, assessing a situation or assessing their position, because a lot of us are on autopilot. We are not intentional. We're not mindful. We're not very demure.
Please, no.
No?
No.
No?
No. Not the platform.
The thing is, what did you do to me is one of the most important preparations I can make for eternity. What did I do?
Because tomorrow is now.
Tomorrow is now.
Yeah.
You know how many people will not see the end of this day? The tomorrow that they believe exists, they've already lived it.
Yeah.
As you say that, it reminds me of one of a favorite lyric in a song. It says that today is the tomorrow that you worried about yesterday.
Today is the tomorrow that you worried about yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what?
That's only 4%.
No. I'm a reduced your failure rate. That was pretty good.
Oh, good. Thanks.
I approve.
Thank you.
I'm practicing my verbal validation.
No, and as you say verbal validation there, we have to call it as it is. As men, sometimes we are our own worst enemies. So just like how we spoke a few moments ago about you having to put that clothes on your partner, be it your husband or your wife, you also have to put that clothes upon your friends to properly impact society as well. Because the family is not just your direct family. As a citizenry, a global citizenry, a population of Mother Earth, we are also the family. So wear those clothes or put those clothes on your friends, on the stranger on the side of the road. Put good clothes on them too.
You just showing off.
What's that?
You're showing off.
No, I'm not.
All right.
Sometimes.
Let's deal with some tough things. You are a voice in our community because you saw a need. You felt excluded. You felt unheard. Has that gotten any easier over the years?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, when it is because we are building power. I say power is building people to stand with you, and then sometimes it's a big 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So the working in the field of theology is very challenging because the people who want conformity, they mean well. And we people who want reform, we mean well. So how can we come to that middle path and bridge the divide, So it's going to take time, but that's why we are blessed to live in countries that empower women. That when society or when religious structures, when patriarchy tries to confine them, and when you have other avenues to raise your voice. Did you see what happened in Iran 2 days ago? There was that young girl. She was wearing her hijab. There's a mandatory hijab law in Iran.
Yeah.
So this police, there are moral police. They come and adjusted her hijab and have been giving her a hard time. She was I think she had enough of that. So she removed all her clothes and she started walking in the university square with her bra and panties. And then she was apprehended and nobody knows where she is. Some people said they have taken her to a mental hospital. So it's not easy to be a Muslim woman because much of the structures are very patriarchal.
We've said it before in the living room. We've said it across platforms. A lot of us are just one bad day. We are just one bad day away from breaking down. We are just one bad event away from that bad day. As a young-ish Afro-Trinidadian male, before the look that I currently have, I used to grow out my hair. And depending on the hairstyle I had, police would search you in a maxi or a taxi. If all of us here were in a car, there were mornings I was going to work, and they would pull me out of the car to check my bag because of my hair. Because of my hair. In a country where, as an Afro-Trinidadian, something like 40% of the population, I am not a minority. And I am policed in the country that I was born and grew up in, that I'm serving. It is so when I could imagine what it feels, to a degree, what it feels like for a young woman to be going about her business and be policed. And this time was a time where
enough is enough.
Enough was enough.
Enough was enough.
I think one of the things that after revives, in terms of us being advocates and allies, is reminding me that there are things that I have to heal from. There are things that I have to heal from it. There are traumas that I might be passing on to other people in ways that I don't know. And so for me to become a better advocate and a better ally, I have to do some introspection. I have to look at the places that I'm hurt and see if there are opportunities to serve from that place as part of my healing. Because there are a lot of people who out here are perpetuating their trauma. Not everyone is in a position to take the time to process and to see how we could turn this into something useful. If you weren't excluded from a space where you belong, you might not have been motivated the way that you were. So we can take the opposition and turn it into opportunity.
Yes, exactly. That's so true.
Now I feel like, the mental picture I had of where this conversation was going to go, that is out the window. It's completely out the window because I feel like I'm sharing with a friend. This is not an interview of an advocate, Washington, D.C., lobbyist and lawyer. This is a human being.
And my heart really swelled when you equated your pain with that girl's. She had enough, She rebelled. And today she's in a mental hospital. But she's that iconic star for the women of Iran. Imagine a nation of laws where it monitors everything you're wearing. And using the religion to justify it. And that's my religion too. I was not brought up in that level of orthodoxy and marginality and discrimination. So what I would like to share with your audience also is like that there is no uniformity in anything we do, We should strive for unity, not uniformity. And unfortunately, my experiences have always been in my Muslim community is uniformity and conformity. And that gets very tiring.
Do you feel, as an Islamic woman, do you feel not even underrepresented, but do you feel that Islam has been misrepresented to the majority of us who aren't members of the Muslim community?
Absolutely. Two things have happened here, Rick. One is it is contaminated because Islam is used as state laws in major countries. The minute your theology becomes the law of the country, what does it do? It damages people, it damages minorities, it damages the soul of a nation, Because religion is a very personal thing. Yes. And secondly, the second thing that has happened in the Muslim world is we have thrown away context. Everything is contextual. If your grandmother used a certain pot to cook 3 pieces of chicken, because she had only 3 pieces of chicken, you can't use that same size pot and say, I will cook only 3 pieces of chicken 20 years later. We have to really go back and examine stuff. And I think a great injustice has been done for Islam in that religious actors have frozen Islam. It's not a hard religion to follow. We growing up with the 5 principles. Kalima, we say the oneness of God, yes. Prayer, pray 5 times a day. Who can grudge that? No, you come, you stay in a state of presence, equanimity when you're praying. Then zakat, the Jewish people also say zakat. Fasting, that really takes you closer to suffering and to a creator. And then we have to perform our Hajj. Those were the pillars of Islam that we grew up. Yeah? But today there is a radical movement to politicize Islam, and that is very harmful. And I have a right, because God is going to ask me, I gave you the brain and the opportunity and the experiences. What did you do to change it? So I have to raise my voice. It's not because I have the luxury to do it, but because I have to do it. And I think all theologies have an element of patriarchy, and some theologies have broken free and they have moved on. But there are some other major Abrahamic faiths that is very patriarchal. So.
Little Trinidad and Tobago, 1/20th the population of Sri Lanka. There are ways that we are similar and there are ways that we are different. To the listeners overseas, I want you to take a look at your neighbor and not scrutinize, but attempt to empathize. We are global citizens. We are global citizens, and life is hard. Is there a way that we could dress our neighbor to make their life a little easier? Can we practice that in our homes? Can we practice that with our partners? Can we dress each other so that life is a little easier? Aaron, you took a deep breath. You're going to say something.
And I think I'm trying to find the right words here. The fact that you drew the analogy to the pot and cooking the 3 pieces of chicken in the pot, that your grandmother used to do that, and then you never questioned why.
Yeah.
It brings it back to the fact that we are so focused on changing the future that we are forgetting what was. And Ricardo and I always talk about this. Sometimes we focus too much on what was and we don't want to focus on what is to come. But sometimes we don't understand, as you said, why we used to cook 3 pieces of chicken in this pot. And when it comes to the religious aspect of things, I always say that you have to be a good human being first before you are a good insert religion here.
Right.
And I think a lot of us focus so much on being a good insert religion here that we don't focus on being good human beings. And if you apply the principles that you spoke of in terms of dressing your neighbor properly or dressing your partner properly, once that foundation is set, then you could proceed to be a good insert religion here. But don't try to do it in reverse. Don't ever try to do that in reverse.
We've seen happen when we put that cart before that horse. I, as a Christian, I believe that you love the Lord with your whole, your mind, your heart, your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. The treatment of your neighbor is a reflection of the love that you've experienced in the relationship you have with God. And
Ricardo, this is the good point here. What are in terms of the pecking order of relationships, what was always say of them? Like,
you say
a good relationship with God, or by whichever name you call the Creator, a good relationship with yourself, and then they could go and love somebody else. Once, because from in my humble opinion, I was trying not to share too much opinion sometimes, huh? Yeah, you have plenty of them. But really and truly, if you can't love God and love yourself, how could you show love for somebody else? How could you dress somebody else if you can't even dress yourself? As Ricardo has taught me, and I practice now, you can't pour from an empty cup.
True.
Yeah, well, I think I might have taught that particular principle intellectually and not necessarily because I practice it, because I'm still working on my self-care and making sure that my well-being is a priority. I was a compulsive servant. If there was a way to help or support or to give, I would jump in first and then figure out how after. And then you start being stretched thin, you start feeling under-supported, you start feeling under-resourced, you start feeling underappreciated, and then you have to stop and take stock. No one forced me into these places. I jumped into these places a lot of the times out of a compulsion to be of use. Why did I feel I needed to do these things to be of value? So then I started valuing my rest, my time, balance. Aaron was speaking earlier that the purpose of balance was important for our theme this month. I was doing the most because I thought on some level, if I didn't do everything that I could, I might be treated as if I didn't do anything. My value came from feeling useful to you. I had to find ways to recognize my value just because I am. I had to find peace. I had to find stillness. I had to find rest. So I now have the luxury or the privilege even of trying to help people find peace because I'm deliberate about finding it myself. So I am working on that love so that I can more authentically express love to other people and help other people find a love that is more authentic. So I'm glad that you brought that up. It's a reminder to me as well that I've not gotten to the point I would like to get to.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can't help others along the way. How do you feel when you're invited to another country, or you're invited to speak, or someone messages you after a Zoom session, or someone waits in line until you finish taking pictures and sharing contact? How do you feel when you see that person wait until they get that moment to tell you thank you, or to tell you how you inspire them? Does that still energize you, or is it kind of like par for the course now? You're like, oh, another one, thanks. Okay, I get it.
Add that to the thank bank.
Yeah, the thank bank. I like that's not bad. Does it still reach out to you?
I think all of that, what you said, and just you feel you got to do more. It just calls you for more. Muhammad Ali said, service is the rent we have to pay for living. And I really take that seriously. And I look back and I see all my life I've done things that didn't affect me much, but that impacted others. In Sri Lanka, come from a Buddhist majority country, 70% are Buddhists. And the male bhikkhus, the male clergy, will not let the female clergy have national ID cards. So that is a subtle level of discrimination, and I was so saddened by that, And I produced a short documentary that I won a global award for religious freedom, for promoting religious freedom. So the fact is that, I think we have a special DNA to be stirred that way, isn't it? It's like people care. No, I'm not saying only I care, But when we care deeply, that is a special privilege, I think. Yes, we all care, but some people care more.
Okay, so we have a couple of things to do in terms of housekeeping. Sorry. What is this? The documentary. How long is it?
Oh, it's about 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Can we share the link to that
Absolutely.
in the description for the video, and we upload it to DJ Aaron 868 Living Room playlist later?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting with the producer, so as a 4 minute clip, can we include it in the episode, as well as tag the link?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd love that. Would be nice to do, because it's so egregious. Because when Buddhism was brought to Sri Lanka, King Asoka sent his sister. A woman was told to take the message of Buddhism to Sri Lanka. So women were engaged in Buddhism, and in America, most of the Buddhist nuns have been ordained in Sri Lanka, and they've come and started their own temples. And they're teaching what they learned from the Sri Lankan Buddhist nuns, and to be marginalized in that capacity, that way, it's really sad. And because I work in that field, addressing the marginality of women in faith traditions, I met this. You will see in that short documentary. I tell the story. Yeah.
Even in Christianity, a lot of people overlook the fact that the first witnesses to Christ's resurrection were the women who went to the tomb.
I know. If she didn't tell the story, we wouldn't have Christianity, right? I don't know. I don't want to make such a broad statement.
But it was a significant contributor to the word being spread that, hey, listen, he's not where we left him.
I know.
And yes, so we do have to be intentional about making sure that no voice that contributes to what could be this culture going forward, that it is not suppressed, that is left, that is unheard and unencouraged. We do have a responsibility.
And Rick, I don't want your listeners to think I'm talking so much about religion, but in the United States, it's a policy of the State Department that all conflict is rooted in religion. All major conflicts in the world, Yes, it's the denial of the deprivation of the other person to practice their faith. So because I work in that area, I'm telling so much about that. And I feel also that if women had the opportunity to preach and teach the youth, there would be a better teaching, more compassion and more love that would be taught from our mosques and our temples and our churches. And you all have, the churches do have,
Yeah, to some degree. Yeah, and no, again, this is the plug your work segment of the program. Right? If I'm not mistaken, you authored a book?
Yes, called Peace Matters, Raising Peace-Conscious Children. And also I thought, because I go to mosques, nobody can tell me I am not a witness to these things. I'm not making these things up. In the United States, I visit over 40 mosques. I study what is happening, what was the sermon, what was the learning. Because I love to listen to people speak the powerful messages of God. And then I also thought we didn't talk enough about service. So I wrote a second book called Serve, A Call to Muslims. I want to hear our preachers talking from the pulpit, calling our congregants, serve the country you live in. You've got to love your country. You can't undermine your country and wish it ill and want it destroyed. So that means what? Simply, you see a piece of garbage, you're walking, you pick that up, It begins there. It begins like a simple rule of discipline. Make your bed in the morning, That makes a huge difference in somebody's life. Just to take that, so it's little things. I'm not talking about doing magnificent, huge things, We can all do small things in a great way. Yeah. So I just feel this overwhelming sense. I love America. It has given me so much. I love countries. I love people. I love the creation. It's so powerful and magnificent. Why aren't we celebrating it? That's cobbling.
By chance, how many questions? How many countries have you been to? Can you go?
Oh, other than Australia, most countries, yeah. So I have brothers living in Europe. Then I've visited South Asia, and then now the Caribbean. Just going to be such a frequent visitor here. It's like
Excellent, because I'm pretty certain that there are people who are going to want to meet you.
yeah. And this visit, I didn't meet any of my Muslim sisters. I've been telling I want to see them, and I hope if there's time tomorrow, want to go to the mosque and see how I might meet somebody. I don't know the culture here. I don't want to impede cultures and go beyond cultures. I'm very respectful of that. In some cultures, women don't go to the mosque, but in some they do.
I believe, unfortunately, we are getting perilously close to the end of the program. I would like to offer to you the floor. Do you have any closing remarks or any special messages that you want to give to the listeners, to your intended audience? Anything that would encourage someone who didn't get to meet you this time to probably make it a priority for you?
Definitely, because I do a lot of self-reflection, and I would ask everybody to be mindful of their thoughts. What are you thinking? Is this a good thought? Can you upgrade the thought? Do you have to carry that thought? It's like going into a buffet, Just picture yourself going into a buffet. You're not going to eat all the junk food there, right? You're going to take the best and leave the rest. So because thoughts can be very toxic, and that can create illness, that can rupture relationships, and that can take away your peace of mind. Because we have 70,000 thoughts a day, and we recycle it. And that first thought, I just can't stress enough. Stay in your bed and have that first thought that is very life-giving, life-serving. Don't get up from the bed until you have embodied that. Yes. And then get up and do whatever you have to do. But don't just take that moment for yourself in the day, Because that initial moments reflect your day. There's no doubt about it. Yes. So pick your thoughts like you would pick your garments, like you would pick everything else. Be very mindful, because this mind is a very if you give all your power to it, you're going to lose yourself. So we spoke about mental health. That is where the power lies. We don't need as many professionals to tell us about how to take a drug and to cure your mental issues. I think we have to do a lot of introspection, self-reflection, and simply think two things every morning. In addition to what I said, like what is right now is how it is. It cannot be any other way. Yeah. And second, remember, I'm a mother to the world. That means you have to love. That's what mothers do, right? Yeah. So to really, and it's work in progress, But I speak to experience. When you go off track, two antennas come up, and you have to do it again. It happens. It changes. It can change. Yes.
Thank you very much. How can anyone who's interested in finding you, contact you on Instagram profiles or anything?
Yeah, my Instagram profile is Soraya Deen, Soraya Deen, and I don't do TikTok yet. Facebook, also no. I used to be there, but it was I don't do that anymore. But I have a website, www.muslimwomenspeakers.com.
muslimwomenspeakers.com.
Yes, and I want to hear lots of voices from here. I want to meet lots of women. I want to be their partners and friends. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm excited about your next trip to the Caribbean, or quite possibly our trip to where you will be working, but we'll work on that. Aaron, how much are we looking for on time? Over. Okay, all right, well, listen, guys, this is Ricardo Mitchell, the social stage and global stage. Thank you for joining us in the living room. Remember, the hourglass is opaque. We don't know how much time remains, so whatever you're doing, be good and stay safe. Thank you again, sir, so much.
Thank you so much. I'm really deeply grateful.
Aaron?
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
And thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
Rick.
Sarah, for taking the time. Because you said you were here 3 days.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time to make us a priority within your very short visit to come and spend some time with us inside the living room. Ricardo didn't bring snacks, and that's all on him.
And a huge shout out to my friend Nick, who has been so instrumental in everything that I'm doing here today.
Well, I'm hoping that he sings you happy birthday later. Because, in case you didn't know, today is also Soraya's birthday, and she chose to spend it in Trinidad and Tobago
With us.
in the living room.
I'm not going to sing because that will make the rain fall again. But happy birthday.
Thank you.
And I do hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. And also happy birthday to a very loyal listener, Ingrid.
Today's Ingrid's birthday.
Yeah, I think so.
Happy birthday, Ingrid. Ingrid is one of the dedicated listeners.
Yeah. She's actually messaging me now.
Oh,
So just to answer your question, Ingrid, our guest is Miss Soraya Deen. Right? Now, thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Thank you very much to the listeners of WAC 90.1 FM. I always end by telling you that culture is by code, and I remind you that love is the currency. Spend some today. Let somebody know that you love them. And if you have nobody to tell that you love them, tell yourself that you love yourself. All right?
I woke up and I saw chopped heads, human heads, sitting on a wall above the street.
I saw my good friends taken away in a truck, never to be seen again. My name is Soraya Deen. I survived a brutal civil war, and this is my story.
I'm from a beautiful island called Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a majority Buddhist country. It is also home to Christian, Hindu, and Muslim families like mine.
Before the war, I saw so much coexistence.
People intermarried, they went to school together, they built temples side by side. But things were far from perfect. And in 1983, a war broke out.
Earliest memory of the civil war was very devastating. I saw my own friends being persecuted. I saw my own friends moved out of their homes. I saw my own friends losing their families. On paper, this war seemed like it was about religion, because it was between the Buddhist Sinhalese army and the Hindu Tamil tigers.
But looking back now, I can see that this was not true. This war was not about religion, it was about politics and hatred.
There were extremists within our society. They went to the media and radicalized the people.
Suddenly, people are able to kill their neighbors, to blow up their buildings, and to do nothing when they saw injustice around them. This civil war lasted for 3 decades.
Over 150,000 people died, and hundreds of thousands of more went missing. But there is something else that I can never forget.
Which is that during all of this, I was never taught to hate. My mother always told me that the problem in our country was politics, and none of the religions were to be blamed. Amid so much darkness, she taught me to believe in peace. Imagine how much strength this takes. Because of my mother, I was able to move forward with my life.
I work to stop oppression, to stop violence, and to empower women.
I also have friends from all religions. There is no one on earth that I hate. All of this is possible because of my mother and what she taught me.
If I could say one thing to the children who are forced to grow up in the war, I would say, choose love, choose compassion, educate yourself, and reject hate.